hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, Jeff. You were just listening.
I was just watching you.
I know it's a much more interesting thing to do, and I agree with that. However, this is about you now. It's not about me, Jeff. It's about you now. Okay.
Yeah, right, JV. That's right.
Yes. Okay. You know me too well. It's all about me, really, basically. But I use you to compliment me. Hey, did you see that thing about A to Z? Do you remember those?
Yeah, I do actually, and I'm amazed that. I mean, it's really lovely that you've still got that one from your dad's car. You know, it's. But I've always been directionally challenged, which has created a bit of navigational tension in our marriage. So
navigational tension. I quite like that. That's a good phrase.
What happens is we get lost, even with the GPS lady, who, by the way, pray for her. She's going through a bit of a rough month. She gets a bit terse when I go the wrong way. But I stop and ask for directions, and then I get really bored with listening. So, you know, permanently lost, really.
Well, do you know what I like? I think actually they should do a kind of a biblical one with, you know, it has, this is the path, walk in it. It's that kind of, you know, with a verse just before they tell you to turn left or right. In a holy, you know, that, or I like the ones with accents. Hello, my name's, you know, I like because they give you different ones, different accents. You know, my name is Siobhan from Southern Ireland. No, it's lovely to see you. It's that kind of thing. I love it. I love it when you can, you know, just customize it.
Well, my wife, she's programmed her to have an Australian surfer dude with a six-pack. So I'm not sure what that's about, but I'm trying not to worry about it.
I can tell you actually if you really want to hear, but
I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I think I've guessed.
Let's just keep it clean. Jeff, it's good to talk to you. But tell us where you're talking from.
I'm in Colorado, in the USA, where right now, to far more serious matters, we're experiencing some really serious wildfires. In fact, we were with some friends in the mountains a couple of days ago, and we underwent a mandatory evacuation, which I've never had that before, because these wildfires, JB, this is not a few trees on fire. These things can travel at 60 miles an hour, if you can imagine that.
It's extraordinary.
And so, you know, if one is coming towards you, and our friend's home last night, the fire was 4 miles away.
Goodness, which is nothing,
like
is
a long
it?
way,
No.
You know, but with the wind blowing. So, you know, listeners hearing this, please be thinking about. We're not in danger right now, where we are, but the sky is very, very smoky, and it's kind of a bit of an apocalyptic feel, which in the year 2020 is not exactly what we need, is it?
No, it really isn't. Actually, I was watching a film just before we started this called Sudden Impact. Do you remember that? Where the meteor hits the Earth. I thought I'd just start with something really cheery and go from there. Interestingly, actually, we did experience this in Spain, and we 1:30 in the morning. We were staying in a villa of a friend in in Javier in Spain, and we got 1:30 in the morning, smashing on the door, and we thought people were kicking in the doors, you know, robbers or whatever, and it was the police, and they moved us because there was a massive fire that had come down from the hills and had destroyed 20 properties within a mile of us. And we were just evacuated and left to just fend for ourselves for that night. We had to move. And when we came back the next day, eventually, the pool, I mean, there was absolutely, it was a villa, you know, with a pool and everything else. The villa was just covered in ash. And just less than half a mile away, one of the properties had been burnt to a cinder. So we get the fear. I never experienced anything quite like it. So 60 miles an hour, wow. Jeff, how's it been going back? Because the last time we spoke to you, you were locked down, and you were here in the south of England. And what apart from the obvious, the fire now, what about the cultural changes going back? Have you experienced anything that's worthy of note?
I don't know whether it's worthy of note. I mean, it was a bit strange coming back. You know, there were 33 people on a 300-seater plane, which was pretty strange. And we were expecting lockdown when we came back, but surprisingly, no, and then cases are starting to spike again. I mean, I don't know about you, but and I don't want to trivialize this at all, because obviously people are suffering and dying all over the world from this. But I know I'm thinking about proposing we have New Year's Eve on October the 20th, just so we can get this horrible year over and done with. Because it's like we've had wildfires, and without going down that rabbit trail, we've got the election here in the US. Yeah. You know, we've got obviously the ongoing fight against COVID and business. It's just been an apocalyptic year, hasn't it? And so, yeah, we're fine, but I just think it's quite difficult to maintain it's difficult to maintain a semblance of normality anyway for me. But particularly under these kind of conditions, it's hard to just get on with things without feeling a sort of shadow in your soul, if you will.
I think that's right. I think the functioning, just chatting as old friends, functioning in what is described as normality, it's no longer, there's this kind of new normal thing that we keep talking about. But every morning you wake up and you think, oh, the sun's shining. And then it's that moment when you realise you've got to go to the dentist in the morning. There's going to be, and then there's a blight on the day. And for many people in our community, in the JV community now, for many people, they're suffering a lot of loneliness, actually, Jeff, a lot of isolation. People who might be shielding or protecting themselves just in case they've been told to. And actually the church, and I'll be honest with you, the church has not functioned in so many cases as it probably should have done. It's been kind of trying to, as we've said each week, trying to put on the best possible TV program on a Sunday morning. And people just don't care anymore. They're going, no, we don't. That's fine. Thank you very much for that. But what we want is a phone call from the vicar. What we want is care. Actually, what we want is for you to care about us, to put your arm around us and say, is that going to be okay? I mean, isn't that, am I barking up the wrong tree here?
I don't know that you're barking up the wrong tree. You might have tiptoed along a slightly dodgy branch. In that, I agree with you, but I don't think that's about, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, he said, hopefully, that it's not just about a phone call from the vicar, it's about us taking care of us.
Yes,
because,
absolutely.
One of the problems, because I am one of those vicar sorts, one of the challenges in these sort of situations is the expectation that somehow just a few people can fix the challenges of the many.
Yes.
And actually, the call really is for the church to rise up and make that network of phone calls and support, and that dropping off of a bottle of wine, socially distanced, or a cup of tea or whatever. It's us functioning together. But I tell you one other thing that has been, I've been pondering a lot, JV. I've been working on a book that's about to be published. Subtle plug.
Don't be subtle. Go for it. We don't do subtlety here on the JV show. Come on.
Well, I thought that, so I thought I'd introduce something new. But singing in Babylon, finding purpose in life's second choices. I've been studying Daniel, and here's a bloke who probably at the ages between 13 and 17 is wrenched out of his home, which was a privileged home. He was one of the nobility in Jerusalem, and hauled off to Babylon, which was like the epicenter of evil in that ancient time. And he has to live a second choice life for the rest of his life. And in that second choice life, it's punctuated with moments of God breaking through incredibly and giving him dreams and even telling him stuff about the end of the world, this most amazing stuff. But he has to live in these second choices, which includes spending a night in a lion's den, which would be awkward. So it's really struck me that, this 2020 has been a second choice year for everybody. But sometimes as believers, we've got this expectation, this anticipation of a first choice world, that if we just pray enough and if we just read the Bible, especially Leviticus, that everything will be great. And the truth is, Daniel met God, but he never went home to Jerusalem. And I think finding God in the world of second choices, where there's ash in the sky because of the wildfire, or because the Prime Minister is making yet another announcement about lockdowns, finding God, it's got to be possible. Well, it is possible, because not only did that guy, stay faithful, but he was even able to thrive in that situation. God help all of us to do the same.
Yeah, that sounds. Just tell us the title again. We're going to do it before the end again, but I just want to get that. What's the title?
It's called Singing in Babylon.
Singing in Babylon. Singing in Babylon. Yeah. Just write this down, everybody out there. This is a great. It sounds like this is a book I've got to get, and it's available through who? Through CWR.
No, it's actually David C. Crook who are publishing it, but it'll be Amazon, it'll be your local Christian bookshop,
okay.
Eden, whoever.
You can get it online.
And I'm not sure when it's out. It's going to probably be a few months yet before it's out. But it's been especially poignant writing it during this time.
Yes. Well, we can put pre-orders in. Yeah, it is. I think it's really important actually to find things that people can read that are positive. I just find actually that I was saying earlier that one of the things is that we get dragged into this kind of this trawler net of news that we find no way out. We're trapped in the net once we're there, and we become addicted to the source of news, either our iPhones or our iPads, or listening to the 24-hour news channel. And all it does is it feeds the fear. And we keep going. But what about when when's it going to get back to normal? And I think this is a very timely thing. Look, as always, we sing a song with the community at this point, and we've just recorded this album, which is fantastic. It's become an epic production. You've Got a Friend, and some beautiful songs. I'll send you an album when we do it. I'm going to do it. Jeff, what's your choice of music these days? What do you listen to when you're off? Obviously, apart from all my albums online. Apart from that, just what else do you listen to?
Actually, I've got to say, JV, you're the only person I ever listen to. I haven't got time for anything else.
No, and Jeff, I love that, and yeah, I don't believe you for 1 second. Anyway, so we're going to sing this song, and I'm just going to say to you, if you feel like joining in, resist the urge, okay?
Thanks for your confidence.
All right, now, Jeff, did you notice the Lost Chord?
No, I just need to make a bit of a comment about that.
Go on then. Go on then, Jeff. Go ahead.
Honestly, I'm quite serious now. It cheered me up no end, and I'll tell you why.
Go on.
Because you both make all of this look so easy. Because, and I mean that quite seriously. So to see the tiniest smidgen of an error was comforting to my own fragile soul, if I can put it like that.
Fragile soul. I mean, I think what happens is, Jeff, that's very blessed of you, and I actually thank you for saying it, and I do mean that from the top of my bottom. It really does mean a lot to me. Bottom of my heart, somewhere like that. Anyway, some other place. But my point is that I like to just drop a chord in every performance just to prove that this is live. Okay?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I knew that it was intentional.
Yeah, completely. Do you know what? This is absolutely true. Now, I don't know whether you ever get this in preaching, but you know that moment when you're going and you're flowing, it's going really well, and you look at yourself, you almost look at yourself out of your body, you go, this is going terribly well. This is good. This is good. What am I going to say next? That's it. You know that. And that's how I go. I lose the piano. I literally lose what key I'm in. I forget what key I'm in. Now, you're something... Sorry.
You know, sorry I interrupted, but just saying about the out-of-body experience, we have a couple of venues in our church. When I'm speaking, it's broadcast to another part of the venue with a 5-minute delay. So last week, I finished preaching and then went in and listened to me preaching for the last 3 minutes and watched myself giving the invitation for people to become Christians. I stood at the back and then watched people from that group become Christians while I was preaching at the front. That was really freaky, Jason, I've got to tell you.
Can I just ask you, did you go forward yourself to your own invitation? Do you know that moment? Were you that good?
I thought about it, but I thought that would have been probably pushing it a bit too far. But I tell you what, it was actually, quite seriously, pretty amazing to stand at the back and just see people responding to, not to me, but to the truth of the message.
Yes,
it was great.
So you found, in which case, for you, Jeff, when we chatted earlier in the year, you did have that, and it's something that I've not forgotten you said, which is, I said, how do you feel? And you said, it depends on what time of day you ask me. And that stuck with me and many others who listened that day. How have you found, and this is a very broad-reaching question, but how have you found faith during this time?
Depends what time of the day you ask me. That's really original, isn't it? Because I think that, I don't know whether I mentioned this last time. If I did, it was redundant, but no one really remember it anyway. But I remember years ago, my friend Adrian Plass said, your feelings are not the barometer of your spirituality. And that was very liberating, because at that point I found myself, I'd go to a church gathering and I'd just feel this overwhelming need to be excited all of the time, to always be on the brink of ecstasy. And I found it all quite tough going, really. So I think what I've learned to do is be cognizant of how I'm feeling and give myself permission to feel certain things, but not to make that the gambling chip of my faith. Nothing. It doesn't all depend on that. And I can feel like rubbish, and I can feel like, where's God gone? What's he up to? Is he there? And if he is, worse still, doesn't he care? But actually, that's not really what ultimately matters when it comes to faith. I think what really matters, I think what Eugene Peterson said, faith is long obedience in the same direction. And just trying to figure that out, and without moving into one day at a time, sweet Jesus, which frankly would be appalling.
Yes.
It is.
Funny you should say that, because that's the next song. And
what a great setup that is. You might have mentioned that.
Yeah. Okay.
But
no.
I think it really is that during times like these, when it's quite difficult to look at the horizon, because we don't know, and yet at the same time, what we are assured, whether we feel it or not, is that we'll never be alone again for the rest of forever. And making that work on a Monday morning and not just singing about it, on a Zoom call on a Sunday morning, I think that's the knack of it all, really.
Yeah, and actually bringing comfort. I think this is where faith exists there in the margins, and that for so many people in this community are hurting, and they don't know quite where to go, and the only thing they have is it is well with my soul. That it's I think there was a song we used to sing back in the Brethren days. In times like these, we need a saviour. In times like these, we need an anchor. Be very sure. Be very sure. Will your anchor hold in the storms of life? So actually, for me, I just thought of that when you said those words. Just all the way back. Back to a Sunday evening service when I was about 12, and it's during those difficult times, isn't it, that the test of our faith is what it's about. And for people who are watching this, who have zero faith and have no interest in doing so, what do you say to those people during times like this? Do you have words to say to them, or is it just we love you and that's that, really?
No, I would say that actually faith is not some odd thing that you might dabble with as a kind of religious hobby, and which might cheer you up a little bit on Sundays, but actually we have all been created by this God to live in a particular way, which includes walking with him. And so we're not about religion. I don't have stained glass windows in the house. I don't record songs of praise when I go away on holiday. It's not about
You don't?
sort of.
What?
I don't. It's not about sort of taking some sort of religious setting into your life. It is about navigating life as life was intended to be, and that's the weird thing, because these days, JV, if you're a Christian, you're weird, you're odd, and you're possibly dangerous.
Yes.
But actually, if we believe what the Bible says, This is not some strange religious conservatory that you stick onto the side of your house, but this is the very foundation of the way every single human being on the planet was designed to live. And when we don't live in the good and the wonder of that, things go wrong. So without sounding heavy about it, I think I would invite anybody who's listening or watching who's never explored that to perhaps just take a moment to say, hello, God, are you there? What's happening?
Yes.
And take it from there.
I think that's a serious and a beautiful invitation, actually. And I think actually that what we try and do in this community more than anything is we try and care for people, draw people into this community, and it's not by beatings and by religiosity or anything else like that. Simply by care and love and concern, as I think the church. That's the aim of the church, is to be caring and put its arm around people. And those, You've Got a Friend, that song, that more than anything has touched so many people's lives, and that's what we continue to try to do. Jeff, I just want to ask a final question before we let you go back to your Sunday afternoon. Sunday afternoon it is for you. Sunday is your 7 hours behind. What do you do on a Sunday evening? Do you go and preach again? Is it back to church?
No, actually, tonight we have some friends coming over. We've got this little film group, JV. I almost called you JW, which was an unfortunate mistake.
That's another thing. I think that's too Freudian for me.
We have this little film group. The only thing is, we've been meeting now for about 7 years, on and off, and we haven't watched a film for about 3 years because, but we still call it the film group. Now, there's a parable there, but I don't know what it means. So anyway, we've got our little film group, and it's just an opportunity, really. I mean, it does come back to what you were talking about before, and I think what we all ache for, and that is to know true friendship.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about close encounters of a Christian kind on a Sunday morning where you say, "Hi, brother, how are you?" which is very helpful because you can't remember the person's name. I'm talking about, and I'm not talking about something that's necessarily always endlessly heavy, where we say, "How are you?" and then you whip out your X-ray charts for all to examine. But rather just caring, deep, empathetic friendship and walking together. And I know for myself, I just turned 64, I'm older, I've had a rough life, but at 64, I know that friendship and relationship is really what matters. And I want to grow older living and laughing with people that I love and care for and who love and care for me, warts and all, even if I get lost on the way to their house and I phone you up and say, please check this up on the A to Z.
Yeah. Do you know what? And I'll say this to you, Jeff, and I say to the listeners, this is Jeff. Jeff has written countless books. He's a very well-known speaker, and within this community, he is a very well-known preacher and teacher. But that man, after we finished the phone call last time, he phoned me the next day to find out how I was. Not anything else, just simply to find out how I was. You cannot even imagine what that meant to me, because it was the start of a very difficult journey medically, and there's a lot going on. And I just want you to know that what you just said. Thank you for what you did for me. That simple act of friendship. And as we do that for each other, and within this community, that's what I'm encouraging people. What Wordsworth called little unremembered acts of kindness for people. You may not remember them, but what they do is they go up to make the big picture, the big puzzle, and each one of us has the place. As in that 1,000-piece puzzle, we actually have a piece to put in to make up that picture. And what a great picture it is when we do it all together. Jeff, before you go, I just want you to give one more big shout out, please, for the new book. Just a quick sentence about it, just for those people who were out making tea, or whatever, just give a big shout out, the theme and the title and where they can get it from.
Thanks, JV. Yeah, it's called Singing in Babylon. You can get it from Christian bookshops or Eden or Amazon or wherever. It's about Daniel. It's about when life serves up something we didn't expect, second choices, which we all experience. And I think I'm just pulling up the quote to sort of sign out on this. But yes. Basically, JV, the book was prompted when we were sitting around as a group of leaders, and someone said, "What are we hearing from people in our congregation?" And someone said that often they hear that they thought life hadn't turned out the way they thought it would. And a friend of mine, he just said this. He said, "Life is what happens when you expected something else." Yeah. That happens to all of us, but wherever we find ourselves in second choices, God travels there with us, even like in Daniel's case, to Babylon. That's what the book's about.
Thank you, Jeff. You know, you are such a refreshment. Would you come and see us again? Just when you're back in the UK, what's the plan?
In probably a month or two, but always great to join you and Sue. Thanks for the opportunity.
It's been lovely, and hopefully we can see each other in person. All right, love to Kay, and tell her to get on with the cooking. As all right. Did, right.
Well, do. Take care, man.
God bless. Bye-bye now.